Genshin Impact, or what if Zelda Breath of the Wild was actually an anime? Released in 2020, holy shit, it's already been 2 years, the game has become a critical hit, and for a lot of good reasons. Guess that $100 million budget was well spent. The game starts with bits of exposition and a cutscene, and well, exposition is usually a bad way of storytelling, but it only really got bad for one story quest in particular, so I'll let it slide.
So, what you're trying to say is that you fell here from another world? But when you wanted to leave and go on to the next world, your path was blocked by some unknown god?
Outlanders, your journey ends here.
A bit of fighting later, and you get to choose between playing as the brother or as the sister. But that choice really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, it's just a way to insert your username, so just choose what you like more. The other sibling gets caught, and you follow the same treatment trying to save him, or her.
And just like that, the god took away my brother. Some kind of seal was cast upon me, and I lost my power. So while we used to travel from world to world, we are now trapped here.
Yeah, I think you can see why exposition is just a poor choice of storytelling. Anyway, your memory is foggy and you can't seem to remember much of what happened before. Apparently you saved this pixie named Paimon for drowning 2 months ago, when really the community is just your as food. Anyway, she decides to help you throughout your journey. Now that the opening of the game is out of the way, let's talk about gameplay. If I didn't make it painfully obvious at this point, this game shares a lot of similarities with Zelda Breath of the Wild. You can climb, you can glide, you can collect resources, the map uses waypoints and statues to TP and discover the map, you can interact with your environment, and you can also fall to your death because you didn't pay attention to your stamina. Dumbass. But at least in Genshin, rain doesn't prevent you from climbing walls. And I'm fine with that. There's no harm in taking good parts of other games as long as you make something different with them. And that's what Genshin did. The moment you reach your first statue, you get introduced to the concept of elements. The meat of this game, if you will. Remember how I said you can interact with your environment? Well, you do that with the elements, and there are 7 of them. Pyro, Cryo, Hydro, Geo, Electro, Animal, and Dendro. Or in layman's terms, fire, ice, water,
Please help me.
rocks, electricity, wind, and nature. They all serve a purpose, apart from Dendro. Oh wait, it does now? For how long have I touched this game already? Oh! Wow, time flies. For example, you can freeze water to walk on it, burn grass to inflict damage, or use wind to grab some fruit. But let's be real, no one does this shit. Elemental reaction, baby! Drop a toaster in your opponent's bathtub. A Twitter user is scolding you because you misgender a butterfly? Freeze the pesky child. Want to recreate the bootleg version of the forest fires in California? You can do that. But Aspidani, I hear you say. Where are the waifus? I wanna see the big titty mommy milk. Whoa, 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 whoa. Alright. But first, there is something I need to tell the Genshin community about. The age of consent is 18 years old. And no, just because this child has been zombified and has been on this earth for 500 years ago doesn't make it any less weird that you would draw her in suggestive clothing. I swear, some of you need Jesus. So, in Breath of the Wild you're alone, but you can use an entire arsenal of weapons for 10 minutes before they break. But Genshin decided that
I don't swing that way,
and instead opts to have characters attached to a weapon type that won't break. There are 5 weapon types: a spear / polearm, a sword, a catalyst, a bow, and a greatsword. And I already see a bunch of you smiling. No, I don't main the greatsword in this game too. That was only in the beginning.
Got him!
And this to me is Genshin Impact's greatest strength: team selection. But before I touch on that, let's talk about how you get those team members. Firstly, you get 3 for free by completing the intro, as well as the 4th one that serves as the tutorial for the gacha system. Basically, you can farm in-game currency, in this game primogems, by doing quests, opening chests, participating in events, that you can after spend on 2 types of banner in order to get characters and weapons. Or you can do what a lot of casino addicts likes to do: whaling. which consists of going in depth and selling your house in order to get a maxed out virtual anime waifu that will so easily clear all major content in this game that you'll end up not even enjoying it. And this sort of behavior, while rare, is so present on YouTube, and some channels even get popular because of it. And while I do think it's a very poor financial decision, anyone is free to do anything with their money, as long as it's not being used to hurt anybody. But this certainly painted a bad image of how the gacha system works in Genshin Impact. You see, even if the drop rates are very low compared to other gacha title, Genshin has the decency to make it so you don't need the best of the best gear to enjoy the majority of the content in this game. And there's also a pity system that will make sure that you eventually get a 5-star character. 5-star being the maximum rarity. Although I would have preferred they didn't add RNG on top of RNG. This game is already filled to the brim with it, but I'll touch on that later. So you no need to lose money to complete the game, capiche? In fact, this is my account after 1.5 years of playing this game. I've set myself a limit of 100 euros, and this is what I bought with it. 6 battle passes, 2 Welkins, 980 gems for Zhongli, and another one for Ganyu. So, in fact, all of this has been obtained by just playing the game. Okay, now that this is out of the way, I can finally explain why team selection is one of Genshin's biggest strengths. Simply put, this creates an infinite amount of ways to play the game, as well as some questionable ways to play it. You have weapon choices, element choices with some resonance bonus, playstyle choices, and characters' abilities, and so on and so on. And this really creates an interesting way to play the game. But how exactly? Well, let's actually show the process that you'll go through when creating a team. Okay, so I want a team to explore the world. Naturally, this implies that we'll do a lot of climbing, a lot of traveling, gliding, with occasional combat. Now let's see what do we have. This character will give me a burst of wind that will propel me into the sky, which is useful for exploration. But not only that, it will suck the enemies in that burst of wind to group them up. That's already a nice start. But I still have 3 other slots. Well, I will need a DPS. Someone that can output a big amount of damage to defend off the enemies. So, let's talk about what we have. I can take Hu Tao, but in order to be utilized to its full potential, I would want someone that can apply either Hydro or Cryo for that extra damage. But I would need to use another slot for that. I could probably use that slot for something better. And most enemies in the overworld aren't so tanky that you need to deal an insane amount of damage. So let's look again. If I pick Zhao, I can get 50% decrease in stamina consumption when climbing, which is good for exploration again. Not only that, I will also benefit from 10% movement speed from animal resonance, and he's a DPS. Hop into my party. I still have 2 slots left, and Mona has pretty good utility, but most importantly she moves fast. Much faster than most of the cast. So I can traverse more land. Once again, into my party.
This is destiny.
Now I have 1 slot left. Now it's more of a question of what do I want? Do I want a healer? Or maybe someone that can give me a shield? Or I may be good enough at dodging and can allocate this slot for a bow. See how much fuss there is when you create a party? And this has led to creation of lists of team composition that can all fit a certain niche. You have freeze teams, where you pick 4 characters that can group up and freeze the enemies on repeat. Or you have the more popular national team that just fits everywhere. The beauty with this is that you don't necessarily need to go with a pre-made team. You can also just create a comp of your own and do well. This is what I've been using for Spiral Abyss for the longest of times, before I eventually took a break from the game. And it worked just fine. In fact, it still works. Of course, like I said, this is only one of the many strengths that Genshin has. Another one would be character design. Look at these characters for a second. Is there a single one that you find boring to look at? Maybe there's 1, or maybe 2. But I'm sure it doesn't reach the double digits.
Silly Billy Hilly Churl. Woo!
And that's because a lot of effort is being put to be sure that these characters are at least interesting to look at. Makes sense after all, it's their main source of revenue.
We will shame you until the end of the world for this rage pulling.
No. Wait.
But they really went the extra step here. They all have amazing dressing design that makes them stand out a lot more than your average NPC.
Wait, no! FBI, open up!
They all have a story, and most of them even have quests that you can partake in. Well, even though some people just spoil because there is too big factors, and sometimes the Chinese government has to step in and change that. Or at least it helps us identify who hasn't felt the touch of a woman for ages.
Okay.
Not a fan of the changes made on Rosaria. The change on her model only tells me someone on the developer team has something against busty women, which translates body shaming. I already gave my thoughts on a more detailed thread.
Oh my god.
One thing I want to point out though, is that everyone is viable. Okay, granted, the game really isn't difficult, so it's not hard to make everything viable. And MiHoYo... Oh, for fuck's sakes, did everything change? HoYoverse really gave Rule 34 artists some work to do. Okay, maybe it would be a good time to talk about the story. And I would say that there is two things. The story and the lore. And to be completely honest, I'm just the story guy. The one that is explained and lived through quest, gameplays and cutscene, instead of the one that asks you to take a gap year, study every text, every detail, etc. And while the story itself is really interesting, my favorite so far being the story quest in the chasm, where you get stuck in a chaotic space rift and are trying to find a way out. But you also learn stuff about the ancient civilization, the plan of the Abyss Mages, and what happened to one of the 5 Power Rangers. But I'ma be honest, the gameplay from the quest are boring. Most of them can be summarized by, go there, click on this, fight until there's a boss fight. Sometimes there is some innovations, like when you have to defeat 3 Guajon Ballistas at the end of Liyue's story quest, but those are few and far between. No. What saves those quests is the story. You, the protagonist, try to find a way to reunite with your sibling, so you traverse the world. Upon interacting with the statue, it is made clear that you react differently since you are from this world. And so an idea comes to both of you. Let's search for the god of this region for clues.
As we all know, poetry and language flow like the wind. There'll definitely be someone there who knows about your brother. At least that's what Paimon thinks. Whether the gods actually answer you is a different story. You never know unless you try. So let's hop to it.
Shit goes down, and after you help fix it, Celestia gets brought up. Each god carries something called a gnosis.
Dead. Each Archon has an internal magical focus that resonates directly with Celestia itself, known as a gnosis.
And these gnosis are all connected to Celestia, and so they hope that by meeting the gods of each region they can learn more about it and maybe get reunited. And each places have its own traditions, rules and way of living. That gives the world more of an appeal, and luckily story ain't the only factor in that appeal. If you haven't gotten it yet, this game is divided by region, and it's an open world game. And the regions you explore are all inspired by real world countries. Mondstadt is inspired by Germany, Liyue is inspired by China, and Inazuma is inspired by a football anime. Whoa, wait, no, never mind, it's inspired by Japan. Exploring those regions are nothing more than relaxing and interesting. It's crazy to think that they made almost every part of the world interesting to look at. And beyond just being interesting to look at, it's also interesting to explore and to murder.
Auf der Weide blüht ein kleines Blümelein. Und das heißt...
chests, enemy camps, puzzles, bosses, world quests, domains. You have a lot to do. And the best part is, it's all viable because they all give you valuable loot. Alright, loot. Let's talk about some negative aspect of this game, shall we? And because we're on the topic of loot, resin system. Or in other terms, please play our game daily. I've never seen a system that contradicts itself harder than the resin system. And the fact that when I came back nothing has changed is honestly scary. Remember those domains? Yeah, they basically give you what you want, with an asterisk. See this game? It's not just a gacha open world PvE game, it's also an RPG, meaning that this needs XP, this needs XP, and also this needs XP. How do you get materials for all of this? Simple, farm bosses and domains. Bosses give you a bit of everything, but most importantly, essential materials that will allow you to ascend your character into demigod status. Ley 9 or Big Flower gives you XP and money. Oh yeah, because it costs money to level up shit. And finally, domains gives you artifacts and talent level up materials. All of what I described costs resins, and you have 160 resin per day. But here's the catch. Every goddamn thing is expensive. Bosses, 40. Ley lines and domains, 20. And because you barely get anything from them, you usually use 40 on them. Why do they do this? It's a way to prevent you from trivializing the game. But the thought process behind it is so poor. Like, why did they go with it? Oh. Never mind, I know now. This seriously creates a paradox where the game prevents you from hard farming it, while at the same time incentivizing you to log in daily to farm, with things such as daily quests and the fear of wasting resin because you can't stock it infinitely. That just doesn't make sense. At least give us a way to farm resin so you aren't done playing as soon as you're finished exploring. And remember when I talked about the game being full of RNG? Yeah, that's another issue. You already have RNG in the gacha system, that just happens to have an RNG pity system. Then you have RNG in drops, and the biggest of them is artifacts. But I'm going to do something that a lot of Genshin Impact tutorials seems to not be capable of doing, and I'm going to explain how to get stronger without going over 10 minutes. You level up with XP, you choose a weapon that fits your character traits, and you level up that weapon. You upgrade his talents, and you make him synergize well with your other party members. And most importantly, you give him artifacts with appropriate set bonus, main stat and substat that fits him well. Oh, and pulling the same character grants you constellations that are more so a bonus.
Let's go, C6.
Whoa, I think I beat the world record by a mile. But how do you get the stats you want on the artifacts? Of course. You do domains, you spend resin, and you pray to get the type of artifact you want, with the main stats you want, and with good substats. Are you fucking kidding me? Alright, that's decent, I hope. For fuck's sake. Oh my god. That's alright. No, there's more. On top of that, you get one roll on your substats every time you level up by 4 levels. And you better pray that they don't land on defense. Come on, come on. God damn it, it's always defense. Don't forget that you have a limited supply of resin that can only be recharged by waiting or by sending your kidney. This means that it's not uncommon to spend days just trying to get good artifacts for one single character. Like, I get that it took a lot of money to create this game, but having you already made up your bag, Hoyoverse, it would be maybe time to chill on that. The second big issue would be Spiral Abyss, the only endgame content of this game. It's a bi-weekly event where the game puts you to the test and creates hard rooms that you have to clear as fast as possible in order to receive rewards. Those rewards being money, artifacts, and most importantly, primogens. And while this is appreciated, the Spiral Abyss is severely outdated. The room's difficulty has only gotten up, but the rewards have stayed the same. Mobs now have millions of health, making them harder to clear, and if you decide to take a break and therefore not improve on your characters, you won't be able to get the full reward, which honestly now sucks. 2 fully maxed out teams that you have to use correctly for what? 3.5 pulls and some Mora? Really? I get that it's a bi-weekly event, but 7 pull a month is just laughable. It doesn't hurt to up the reward to something like, I don't know, 300 gems per full clear, or something similar like that. For reference, the pity is reached at 90 pulls, so it's not overpowered to up the gem count. Third issue is the one that manages to annoy me the most. Genshin is a multiplayer game. If you've never heard of its multiplayer aspect, don't be surprised, because it sucks. You can join friends into their world as long as you aren't 5 AR levels above them, but here's what you can really do. Explore the world with them, do the mains together, which is pretty cool, participate in some events Storyverse hosts, that's a fun gimmick, and that's it. You may have noticed that I placed an asterisk above explore, and it's not a typo, it's because your exploring abilities are severely limited due to the fact that almost every quest in the game can be done in co-op, meaning that at one point, you'll have to go back to solo just to complete them. What's so bad about completing quests with your friends? What? The game wanted to remind us that we're all gamers and therefore we don't have friends? The fuck is this decision? Those aren't the only problems. For example, you can't watch cutscenes back even if you completed the quest, but those were the biggest ones that have a big impact on the overall gameplay. But don't let that prevent you from having fun. Those problems that I mentioned are annoying for sure, but Genshin Impact is one of the most unique games we've seen in a while. It has an interesting world built with memorable characters, scenery, and story, with lots of lore for you FNAF nerds out there, as well as one of the most satisfying gameplay systems I have experienced. And oh, did I also mention the music?
I'm actually stuck. Oh, no, there we go. No!
Oh, this
Hell
for
yeah!
a chest?
Yeah. So I was like, no, it's mincemeat soup time.
We just opened the door of the Hades for her, Jesus Christ.
For I am fucking stuck again. Are you kidding me?
Oh, hello. It's a jungleception. Again, you're like so good at putting yourself into the ground. I'm actually amazed.
There's stairs there, by the way. They're barely visible.
Oh yeah. What the fuck is this?
And if you want, you can sit and watch.
I feel like I'm getting flashbang diarrhea looking at this. Time to close you in.
Yes. Oh god.
What? What is this? What we see?
So how's it going?
Pretty good. I've been ripping my head in the editing software for days. How about you?
Oh.
Solid game, would recommend. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, consider subscribing and dropping a like. Why not share this video with some friends as well? If you ever want to see a review on the game, write it down in the comments and I may review it one day. On that note, I hope you have a nice day. Peace.
Worthless.